So if you own an 03 to 08 5.7 Hemi-powered Ram 1500 and you're looking for one of the most affordable closed element cold air intake upgrades, you should be checking out the Volant Pro5 closed box cold air intake. At around the $300 price point, this will be the least expensive closed element option, comparable to the other options on the page from S&B. But where this one has a small advantage is it's CARB certified with an EO certification number, which means that it is legal in all 50 states. That's big news for you guys in places like California or New York, where they have very strict emissions regulations. You can still stay street legal with this thing. Now, why would you want a closed element cold air intake like this one? Well, you have a lot of open element designs. They look cool, they're flashy, they have kind of a street rod look to them, but they don't do as good of a job of insulating that conical filter inside like a closed element design does. This one ditches that crappy paper element, which I'll show you guys in a second, but it retains the closed element design that the factory air box does, and that's for a good reason. It insulates all the air going to the motor, and colder, denser air makes more power, so you should pick up some better throttle response, and you'll probably experience a slight increase in low to mid-range horsepower and torque. I'm also happy to say the install is very straightforward. It gets a 1 out of 3 wrenches on my difficulty meter. Shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes to an hour, so if you own a bone stock truck or you've never turned any wrenches, this is an excellent first mod. So again, if you want one of the most affordable closed element designs to make some better performance out of your Ram 1500, go ahead and pull the trigger on the Volant and then come back. I'll show you guys what tools you need to get the job done, and then I'll walk you through the install step by step. All right guys, before we get started, you'll need to grab a Phillips head screwdriver with a standard drive ratchet and an 8mm socket. Now it's very helpful to have an extension, and a cordless impact will speed up the install. So removing your factory intake is very easy. All you gotta do is loosen the clamp that secures the factory tube to the resonator box, which goes to the throttle body. But before you do that, you wanna make sure you loosen this little hose right here. Just pull it off with your hand. That's your crankcase blow-by. All right, so once you've loosened that clamp and you pulled that hose out of there, you can actually remove the entire assembly from the engine bay as one piece. All right, so we have our factory air box removed. Before we ditch this thing, we gotta pull some hardware off of here, specifically a couple of rubber grommets, but you can also get a nice comparison of our factory air box and that paper element filter. And then you got the nice new Volant air box here, a lot more free flowing, a little bit more volume inside of there. And then the real star of the show is that high flow conical filter. That's gonna really free up any restriction that you get at low and mid RPM. And that's what's gonna improve that throttle response that you might have heard from other customer reviews. So let's go ahead and pull those grommets off. There's no tools required. You just need a little bit of hand pressure. All right, next we can install the filter itself inside the air box. You need to remove the cover here. Simple Phillips head screwdriver for all the screws. All right, once you got that cover removed, make sure your intake tube is threaded through this hole here. You also want to have this weather stripping. That's going to seal the air box up nicely. Go ahead and insert your filter like so. Make sure you got that large band clamp there on the end. Make sure it's seated flush just on the end of the tube itself, and then you're going to be tightening down this clamp using your same 8mm socket. All right, so once you got the filter in place, go ahead and tighten down the lid itself. Now we're ready to install our intake in our truck. To do that, you'll need that 8mm socket for your band clamps. Go ahead and grab that rubber coupler, and I'll show you guys how to get this thing bolted in. All right, once you got your intake seated in its original position with those 4 rubber grommets, pretty straightforward. All you gotta do is secure the intake tube to the resonator box using that rubber coupler and those 2 clamps. But before we do that, we need to make sure we reconnect our breather hose. You're gonna be using this little elbow fitting provided in the kit. Now keep in mind for 02 and 03 models, you'll actually be plugging that up because you don't have that breather hose connection. Ours is an 07 truck, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna secure the elbow fitting to the intake tube, then we'll reconnect our breather hose, then we'll install our rubber coupler with our 2 clamps, tighten everything down, and we should be good to go. All right, once you got that elbow fitting in place, go ahead and rotate your intake tube into the direction that it's supposed to be facing. Make sure you get that elbow fitting underneath this AC line here, and then reconnect your breather hose into the elbow fitting itself. All right, now that our breather hose is installed, we can throw our rubber coupler in place, securing our intake tube to our factory resonator box. All right, so once you got that rubber coupler tightened down with both clamps, that'll wrap up the install. And that also wraps up my review of the Volant Pro5 closed box cold air intake fitting your 03 to 08 Hemi-powered Ram 1500. I'm Travis, thanks for watching. Keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.